John, am I a stick in the mud? Am I boring? I feel like I'm boring.
I don't think you're boring. Stick in the mud. You have to give me context before I can answer
I
that.
just people go and do things and go on cruises and go to California and go all these places, and I do the same crap all the time, and I wonder, am I doing something wrong?
Well, so you're talking about adventures and traveling and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I think most of the people we know don't take big traveling excursions and big adventures. They do some, but not that much. But well, I don't know. Maybe it's just the people we know. I'd love to travel. I don't get to travel nearly as much as I'd like to.
I bet other people think about traveling. They probably think a lot more clearly about it than we do. That's why our thinking is unclear, because that's what we do. We do unclear thinking. That's what we do. Hello, folks. It's time for Unclear Thinking again. I'm Larry Smoke.
I'm John Bates.
That guy over there is John Bates. He just told you so. I've traveled more in the last 5 years than I probably have in my entire life beforehand. So I don't know why I'm whining about it, but I just, this past weekend, it's Monday night as we record this, and this past weekend, I did yard work, I did laundry. Time that I left the house Saturday and Sunday was to go get a salad from Zaxby's Sunday afternoon. A neighbor is on a cruise. There's another neighbor who's in New Orleans on a business trip, and I know some people who are out on the West Coast for something business. And I look at all these people going, and we have friends that live overseas, and they see parts of Europe and all these exotic places, and I wonder, am I not fulfilled?
All right. Well, we're going to have to discount the friends who live overseas, because if you live in England and can actually get on a train and visit almost any other country in Europe within a day, I don't think that, those going to Germany, going to France, going to Ireland, going to Spain, going to Greece, that sounds cool and exotic to us. But if it's a train ride away, we can't count that as.
Well, they did the brunt of their traveling up front, and instead of just taking luggage, they took all their worldly possessions.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
And then it was trips down the street after that.
All right, so here's some things. As I mentioned, I'd love to travel. I am not widely traveled. I've been to California once. That was a trip with grad school. I've been to Mexico once. That was a insurance sales trip, part of a sales conference. I've been as far south as Daytona, as far north as DC, and apart from those other two trips I just mentioned, I've been as far west as Mississippi. The only time I've ever been out of country was the Mexico trip, and I really haven't done that much traveling in any case. It's all been very local. But if you think back just 2 or 3 generations ago, it wasn't that unusual for people to not leave their town. When I was, for my grandparents, when they were young, a trip to Charleston from where we lived. That was a big trip. Now, my grandmother was an adventurous person. She had no problem driving cross country just for the hell of it, just to see things. But that's what she had to do. She had to drive cross country. They didn't hop on planes and go in there. I'm not sure my grandmother ever took a ride on a plane in her life. And my grandfather, the only reason he did is because it was a war. So yeah, he was the most well-traveled of us all, because he got to go to strange and exotic lands, meet new and interesting people, and attempt to kill them.
That's gotta be fun.
But
check your bag, sir. Check my bullet, Mako.
But yeah, I don't think everybody's got the urge to travel. I do think that travel is a very, very valuable experience. And I think that on some level, most of us have that urge to go and see things that are not the things we see all the time. I do want to go on a cruise. I'd love to go to Europe, go hang out with our friend who lives over there, and then go around and see France and see Germany and see Spain and see Ireland and Scotland and marvel at the people over there who are basically just living their life like we are, but to me it would be foreign and exotic.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas to them, coming over here to where I live would be foreign and exotic.
Yeah.
Everybody would do things a little bit differently. They would say things a little bit differently. They would eat different foods, and they would do things in a different way. And
But I guess that's part of the reason I asked the question about and stick in the mud is overgeneralizing. I understand that some people have more wanderlust than others. I get that. I mean, it's a personality thing, and not everybody's the same. I guess I'm like, did you get your passport stamped when you went to Mexico?
no, I didn't have a passport at the time. You didn't need one.
Oh,
I do have a passport now. I just got it. I've never actually been able to use it anywhere.
I got my passport right before. I've been on one cruise, and I wouldn't have gone on that, but for my mother-in-law, now my mother-in-law, my wife and I were not married at the time. We were still engaged. She actually gave my wife-to-be a cruise as a college graduation gift. The wife got her master's degree, and that was her mom's gift to her and allowed me to come along. So that's the only reason I got to go on a cruise. But I got a passport for that because we were going to be disembarking in Guatemala and Belize and the like. Mm-hmm. And yet, then nobody ever stamped my passport, and I kind of felt shafted. I know. And actually, to be fair, okay, I've been to Guatemala. You know what I did in Guatemala? I got off the boat. Well, we got off the boat. We looked down the dock, and we looked at each other, and we said, "Let's get back on the boat." And we got back on the boat. Because Guatemala didn't look all that appealing to us. Now, Belize, we actually got off the boat and we then dorked around a little bit, but we didn't really venture deeply into the country or anything. And Mexico, we went to Tulum, Mexico, and Playa del Carmen. But again, nobody stamped my passport. I kind of felt shafted.
Yeah, when I was getting my passport, I asked the lady at the passport office. I said, I want to get this thing full of stamps, and she said, "Oh, honey, they don't do that anymore. They don't stamp passports." And I was like, but I want a steamer trunk, and I want a passport full of stamps. I want to travel like it's Indiana Jones in the 40s.
And a fur coat, and a straw hat, and one of those canes with a pennant on the end of it that you wave when you're hanging off the edge of the Titanic, right?
Yeah. I get a passport that's full of paper. I was like, you can order extra pages. If nobody stamps it, what the hell do I need extra pages for? Well.
That kind of flipped me out. I said, geez.
Yeah.
It's basically a driver's license, I guess. You just flash it.
Here's the thing about travel, though. I think it is very valuable to go to a different place and see humans being human, but in a different way than you do.
Well, and that's what I was getting at when I started saying about wanderlust. You're right. Intellectually, I understand that I should desire to see other cultures. I should see firsthand ways of life that are not like my own. But I guess I'm ashamed to admit I have enough xenophobia that I don't really want to. Whether I'm scared to or whether I feel superior to, I honestly don't know. But for whatever reason, I don't really have a whole lot of desire to travel abroad, and I know that I'm depriving myself of personal growth and experience and all that crap by feeling that way.
Well, I mean, you don't have to travel to a different country to travel. I mean, you can experience a different culture by going to a different place in the U.S., If you go,
that becomes more and more true every day that goes by.
Yeah.
The balkanization of this country.
And the thing about that is that when you get to see people that are people, but they're just doing things a little bit differently, the way they dress, the way they live, the way their seasons operate, the way their cities are set up, the way their food choices, whatever the case may be, you get to see the commonalities that are the same all the time, and those are the things that connect us and say, yeah, I'm a human, they're a human. And you get to see the differences, which shows you the variation in the things that aren't necessarily as set in stone, which can provide perspective on things that you just accept as givens. If they're not givens everywhere, then perhaps they're not as necessary as you think that they are. Who is it? Mark? I don't know. There's a Mark Twain quote. I'm gonna have to look it up. So you're gonna have to talk while I do.
The coldest winter I ever spent was the summer in San Francisco.
All right, no, that's a good one though. There it is. Travel is fatal to prejudice, bigotry, and narrow-mindedness,
Well, I guess I
and
can
many
see that.
and many of our people need it sorely on these accounts. Broad, wholesome, charitable views of men and things cannot be acquired by vegetating in one little corner of the earth all one's lifetime. Now, I also know that there are a lot of people who do stay in their one little corner of the earth. And with the internet, but even before the internet, with books, you could travel through books. You could travel through the internet. You can travel through movies. But there's also something to be said for actually being there.
Oh, of course. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're right. With the information age and whatever form of media information takes, it is possible to learn of other culture. But of course, there's no substitution for first-hand experience. The feeling, the vibe, the smelling it. Good and bad smells, I guess. If you're in certain parts of India, it probably doesn't smell too swift. But to pick one example, but
Well, when I went to California a couple of weeks ago, the people there weren't that different, which was a little surprising. There were friendly people, there were aloof people, there were rude people, there were the same people you'd find. But I did find that in my little particular area of California, people spend a lot more time outside than they do here.
what part of California?
It was Newport Beach, just south of LA, or
Okay.
part of greater LA metropolitan
Yeah.
area. Yeah, just to the south. Yeah, people spend a lot more time outside, as far as I could tell.
That part of California,
Yeah.
I can understand.
Yeah, and it may be that it's because the culture here in South Carolina, we're a rural farming culture. People who went outside to work, and people who didn't have to go outside to work was like, it's hot and humid. I don't have to go outside to work.
Amen.
I'm not going to.
Now, the grand adventure of my life it was actually not too terribly long ago. It was my wedding and honeymoon in San Francisco, and that was 2.5 years ago. And we were there the week of Labor Day. It was the first week of September. We were there for 9 days, so it was like August 30th through September 8th or 9th, something like that. And of course, everybody tells you. Mark Twain said the coldest winter I ever spent was a summer in San Francisco, and here this is the dog days of summer. But it'll be cold. Take all these jackets, take all these undershirts, take all these long pants. I took one pair of shorts. It was 75 degrees that entire week. I wore that same pair of shorts every damn day. And I think the next to last day that we were there, the high temperature of the day was going to be 81. And I kid you not, there was a local weatherman that afternoon telling people to either bring your pets indoors or make sure they had extra water. And newlywed wife and I look at each other and shake our heads, and we said, oh, these poor folks, they just don't understand. They don't get it.
Right. But you know what? I've met people from places farther to the north of us that when I say, yeah, we generally have maybe one snowstorm a year, and when it snows, the state shuts down.
Mm-hmm.
We get 1.5 inches of snow on the ground. There is no bread and milk in the grocery store, and we are done. And we're not moving. And those people from up north will shake their heads and say,
Those poor souls.
Yeah,
They just don't get it.
Yeah.
The 4 seasons of the year in the South are almost summer, summer, still summer, and fall.
That's right.
Those are the 4 seasons of the year in the South.
That's right. But like I said, it's the little differences that are interesting. When I went there, you get on a beach here, you can walk for miles. You just get on the beach and you walk and you walk and you walk and you walk, and you're probably not going to run on a beach unless you're on an island, and then it's still going to be a long beach. In California, I went to the beach. The beach is, well, the beach I went to and all the beaches I saw are little crescents of land that are maybe a quarter mile and completely surrounded by cliffs.
Yeah,
So
rock
you
structures. Yeah, I think.
Yeah. you drive down to the beach. It's a little crescent of sand that everybody, it was a very well kept, well organized beach. They had permanent volleyball nets up, and they had refreshment stands, and they had bathrooms, and they had all this nice stuff. But it was this low crescent of sand with cliffs all the way around it. And there were people who were practicing rock climbing on the cliffs, and I found that fascinating. And I enjoyed scrambling around on the rocks myself, because our beaches don't have cliffs and rocks. They tend to be flat areas that go into a flatter area leading to the water. And once you get past the sawgrass and the other grasses, you get right onto the sand, and there's the ocean, and it just stretches out. So it was interesting. And those little interesting differences make a difference. I mean, sometimes I wonder if our unnamed friend who lives overseas, when he comes back here, inside his head, I wonder if he's sort of shaking it slowly back and forth, going, "Oh, these provincial fools."
I think he's pretty much said that out loud a few times.
Yeah, probably so. Probably so.
Well, so have we determined that my feelings of travel inadequacy, that those feelings are to an extent justified, that maybe I am on some level realizing that I'm not cultured enough?
No, well, like I said, I think for most people, the extent of their travel, the biggest extent of their travel is a cruise. And you're going to hit 4 countries in 5 days, and you're going to spend, maybe 6 hours on shore in each country. And you're going to do a zip line tour or a scuba dive experience or a bicycle thing, and that's going to be it. You're not really going to hit culture. You're going to hit tourist culture.
So you've just verbalized right there everything that I always used to say about my reluctance to take a cruise. That if I was going to go somewhere, I want to go somewhere. I don't want to spend 6 days taking the ride to get there. I want to go somewhere and see the somewhere and then come back. And everybody said, "Oh, but once you take one, you'll love it. You'll always want to take another one." Well, I've taken one, and to be honest, I enjoyed the ride. I'm not going to deny that. But I still have not changed my opinion that, as I said, yes, I've, air quotes, been to Guatemala. I saw the dock. And to an extent, that was my own choosing. But even if we had ventured into the jungles that were off the dock, that's the reason we turned around and got back on the boat, because all we saw was jungle. We'd only been there 4 hours.
Right.
Now, Tulum, Playa del Carmen and Tulum, we got to spend pretty much the entire day. So that there was that. But the ship was docked at Cozumel. We never got to see Cozumel because we got back to the boat. Time to go. Gotta leave. Gotta go to Belize now. And coming back, we stop at Key West, and Key West is America. That's not even like a foreign land. We were there for 2 hours.
Key West is definitely a foreign land, in my opinion.
Well, yeah. But still, I mean, like I said, okay, I've been to Key West. I spent 2 hours there, and the wife and I, we were running. We ran from Hemingway's house to the lighthouse to the Butterfly Conservatory to the Hard Rock Cafe. We were running. So you can hardly even say that we enjoyed it. We got to see this, we got to see this, we got to see this. And if we hadn't spent 5 days in 5,000 feet of water, we'd have had more time to see any of these places.
Right.
So that's.
I get what you're saying. I mean, yeah, that's tourist travel. When I went to Mexico, I went to Cabo San Lucas, and I was in the resort, or I was in the tourist section of town, and I never saw Mexico. I have a friend who is a diver, and she goes to Tulum once or twice a year, maybe, to do some diving.
I bet that would be nice. I've seen that water. I bet that is nice diving, I would imagine.
Yeah, and they have the cenotes, which are in the middle of the jungle, and it's basically a hole in the floor of the jungle, and crystal clear water down in the hole with marvelous rock formation, stuff like that. The thing is, and she's told me before, there are 2 parts to Tulum. On the coast, the entire coast is made of nothing but interconnected resorts where the local people work but do not live. You cross the road away from the coast into the jungle, and that's where all the people actually live.
And that's where the drug dealers kidnap you and haul you away for ransom.
Well, I don't know why they would kidnap those people, because those people don't have any money.
I mean, if the tourists were to cross the road,
yeah. But and that's where she stays when she goes. She stays in the villages, not on the resorts,
Mm.
because A, it's tremendously cheaper, and she actually gets to see Mexico. She gets to see that as the sun goes down, everybody comes out of their homes and they interact with each other. They're standing around talking, they're wandering from house to house. Everybody's got a side business. Like people will set up little stands in front of their houses and sell food.
Mm.
And sometimes, she said one time there was a guy who was selling pizza. Basically, what he'd done is he hooked up a microwave and had frozen pizza, selling it, and it was selling well because it was exotic food.
That's true.
So
She must have a deal with. She must have some kind of understanding with the drug dealers. Then that they don't kidnap her and haul her off for ransom.
I don't know. She has an understanding with things that should get her in trouble all the time and don't. But I think it's important to travel with intention. You have to pick a place you want to go, and then go there. I don't think it has to be that far. You could take a trip to
Oh, of course
part of
not.
Florida.
That's part of what I meant when I asked the question to start off this conversation about do I travel enough? Forget exotic lands. Again, the grand adventure of my life is San Francisco. I mean, and before that, 28 years, I went to Milwaukee, Wisconsin to a Dungeons and Dragons convention, and that was the grand adventure of my life before my wedding in San Francisco. So I haven't even seen diddle squat of my own country. I've driven to Pennsylvania once. I've driven to Virginia once. I've been to the mountains of North Carolina a couple of times. I'm the only person I have ever met who has been to Orlando, Florida, and not laid eyes on anything Disney. That's how sad my traveling is.
I went there. I didn't see the park. I did go in Universal Studios.
I didn't see any advertising. I didn't see the park. I saw nothing Disney. I saw the inside of the convention center for the function to which I was going, and then I saw the parking lot and then the road back. That's all I saw of it. So that's what I'm saying. Even the traveling that I could do, there are times I wonder, am I not making enough effort to expand my horizons? And there are times that I think, I don't want to see the rest of this stinking world.
I have that too. I don't like seeing things by myself anyway. I like to travel with people.
Oh yeah.
But I went to California, right? Well, I was in LA. I thought about going to see the Hollywood sign, and I looked and said, "Oh, okay, so it's roughly 45 minutes away by cab. So I'm looking at 90 minutes a cab ride to go out and see the sun. I don't need to."
It's probably about $120.
So while I was there, I took one trip to the beach, and that was through a shuttle that the hotel ran.
Mm-hmm.
And everywhere else I saw, if I couldn't run to it or walk to it, I didn't see it. And there were lots of things I could have seen. There were lots of landmarks, lots of interesting places I could have gone, but I didn't. So maybe my sense of adventure is no better than yours. But, I did lots of places I'd love to go see. I'd love to go to New Orleans and see what that's like. I'd like to go to New York at some point and see what that's like. I'd actually, strangely enough, I'd like to go to Idaho because I'd like to see some of the countryside they have in Idaho. Very rugged country up there. I like to go to Seattle. Got some friends who live in Seattle. I'd like to go see them, see what life is like up there. And that xenophobia you were talking about? I'd say just pick places that have cultures mostly similar to your own, and then branch out from there. You went to San Francisco. Well, that's a radically different culture, but not too radically. It's mostly America. It's just different America than South Carolina America.
I told the wife when we got back it was the loveliest city I've ever seen, and I could see myself living in such a pretty part of the country, as crowded and as busy as it is. I just don't know if I could live with the thought of knowing that any vote that I would ever cast for the rest of my life would have no meaning whatsoever. I don't know if I could live with that thought.
Yeah, well, if you want to
Larry
travel
Smoke's
to
political affiliations have just been revealed.
Shocking. If you want to travel to Europe, pick places they speak English. Go to England. Go to Ireland, where they mostly speak English. Go to Scotland. That school situation I was talking about, my grad program, they took another conference trip to Montreal not too long ago. I wanted to go. I didn't have the opportunity to go to that one, but I wanted to go. And I thought that I was going to have the opportunity to go, so I bought a long black wool coat so I could be cool. I started learning French just so that I would have an idea, at least 20% idea, if I was getting cussed out.
Qu'est-ce que c'est?
Yeah. I think
Je
travel's built
suis
into
un
it.
stupide américain et il n'est pas français.
I was going to say travel's built into all of us except for our friend Kevin, but you know what? He's probably traveled more than both of us have. He's taken lots and lots of road trips down to Key West and on his motorcycle and things like that. So
Has he ever done that big motorcycle gathering out in the Dakotas?
Sturgis?
There you go, Sturgis.
No, he hasn't. He's gone to Bike Week in Myrtle Beach a couple times, and he's going to Key West. I don't think he's done Sturgis. I'm pretty sure he hadn't.
Well, folks out there, I guess the vote falls to you folks. Are John and I just hopelessly provincial? Are we culturally inwards, ill-bred, underexposed? Do we need our horizons expanded, or do we actually have the wisdom to see that the rest of the world's a pile of crap and we're better off just walling ourselves off and making the best of our own little acre and a half? UnclearThinking@gmail.com is where you can send us your happy thoughts about the subject. Or you can tell us what racist, bigot, xenophobes we are on Twitter. You can do that towards me at LA Smoke. And you can do that at John at
CUHULLEN at Cuhullen.
And that's actually from an Irish poet, if I recall, isn't it right?
It's the name of an Irish mythological hero, but not spelled in the Irish way because there'd be a whole lot more consonants in there.
It'd be something Gaelic looking.
Yeah. It looked like Cuchuhulain. You know, maybe we can make our own stamps for passports.
Yeah.
We'll go somewhere and come back and stamp our own passport. So the next time we go to that place, they'll be like, what is this forgery? And then we'll end up in a Turkish prison somewhere.
I hear Midnight Express in the back of my mind right now.
That's right.